what made you becoming a dentist?
Ah, my, my dad was a missionary, and I grew up actually in Africa, in South Africa, and had an amazing dentist as a child in Johannesburg. And this gentleman was very, very interesting, and he had this amazing staff. And the staff was always very friendly, and they all knew Johnny, and I'd come in, they'd all make a big party about Johnny, and they'd all hug me and kiss me. And his name was Dr. Murray. And he was this was a long time ago, because this is the
Sure.
early 1970s. This is my first memories is like 1971. I was about 6, 7, and in those days dentistry hurt. There's no getting around it. It's the old foot pedal, and you know especially it was still Africa. But he never lied to me. He'd always tell me the truth. He'd say, Johnny, this is going to hurt for about the count of 5. Then you're going to be okay. Well, this will hurt now, but then you're going to be fine. And he never lied to me. He always told me the truth. He did not try to sneak something on me. And so I really trusted him. And, the things that he did occasionally would be uncomfortable, but he would always be upfront about it and tell me before. And so he had this air about him that was honest and trustworthy. And although I knew he would do things to me that occasionally I wouldn't enjoy as much, but I knew I was safe with him. And then he had fought in the Second World War against Rommel and in North Africa. So when I'd come in, he'd be telling me stories about the battles in North Africa. And lo and behold, he'll be telling a story, and then a procedure will be done. And said, and then Johnny, we came over the hill. Okay, so next time we'll talk about what happened after we came to the top of the hill.
He really hooked you to dentistry, huh?
Absolutely. I would So I would totally remember it, okay? And I would always be so amazed that I'd come back and he would start, okay, Johnny, so we got to the top of the hill and there was Rommel and his forces. And I'd be so amazed that must have been the most important person in his entire practice, because he would keep this in his head, of course, right? Of course, now I know he probably put it in the chart, kept it at the top of the hill. But for me, it was always amazing that I was so special to him. Anyway, bottom line was, he was a very positive person. He seemed to have a great life, and he had a passion for his work. He was always surrounded by lovely ladies and fun people, and there was a lot of laughter, and it seemed like there was a lot of happiness in his environment. And I kept thinking, he seems to be having fun all the time. And it sparked something in me. And in my family, the men are all either pastors, missionaries, or they're MDs, missionaries. And I wasn't cut out to be a pastor, and I didn't particularly want to be an MD, but this seemed to be something. And then I took aptitude tests in university, and they said, you'd be a wonderful dentist. They test your mental dexterity and personality types, etc. And they said you score very, very highly. You should really consider this, and it was a natural fit for me.
You guys, you dentists, you really, there's a huge clinical and mechanical part to it, like with an MD or a super high-class engineer or something. But at the same time, you guys are more artists than anyone else, because, a front tooth which has the exact millimeters of measurement doesn't necessarily look aesthetic still on that person. There's a little more to it, isn't there?
Yes, yes. There's a lot of artistry in dentistry. I personally used to enjoy sculpting, and specifically in wood. I used to like to whittle away wood and create animals. And I grew up in Africa, so I've made many elephants. And let me tell you, it's not as easy as you may think. Especially when you have them like running. You got one leg forward, one leg back, one leg forward, one leg back. You got a block of wood, and then you got to imagine it in 3 dimensions. And then create it. And you got to keep the proportions right. You can't have one long leg in the back that belongs to a giraffe in the buck.
And so, the dimensions right is probably a very key word for the mouth. Little too short, little too long, little too wide. it all makes a difference. It's like a good a good fashion designer who doesn't put stripes on a guy or lady who's supposed to have jackets. Or what do I know? But you know what I'm saying? There's definitely something to it. Well, Dr. Chaves, it's really very nice to see that. I love it because I'm part of those people a little bit who, when people do something because of an experience they had, something they like, they follow somebody they admire, because when we do that, we automatically have more affinity for what we do, you know. If the motivation wasn't, well, I think the newspaper said, the Wall Street Journal says in the next 20 years, that's the profession with the most money. You know, I'm not saying that one couldn't and shouldn't make money. Obviously, it's part of what we do. But if the motivation of how, the why, something was in it, that's great. Well, Dr. Chaves, thank you very much for informing us about you and your practice. I appreciate it.